Good morning, all. Somehow there was some technological issues this morning, and I've started the Facebook Live, but I wasn't able to start it on the feed that I had originally had. So I'm just gonna post that. Oh, it says I'm doing live. So, yeah, send me some hearts and likes and let me know you're there and that this is working. Awesome. Okay. Let me get my screen organized so I can see when you guys comment and then we'll get started. So I hope everybody's enjoying their Friday morning. It's a beautiful day here. So I look forward to spending some time outside. Summer looks to have finally arrived. So thank you for joining me on my Facebook Live this morning. As always, please feel free to ask questions in the comments during the chat. And if you are listening to the recording, I will check back and answer questions. Um, this morning's subject is, will your puppy outgrow that? Um, when I see people with puppies, a lot of times you hear, oh, it's okay, he's just being a puppy. And the other thing I hear is, I know this is puppy behavior, but this is driving me nuts. But leads me to believe these people think that they have no choice but to accept this behavior, that they have to put up with this behavior because he's a puppy. You always have a choice. You have the tools to moderate or to um, manage your puppy and to create new behaviors. Yes, sometimes there's questions from the puppy. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it's not instantaneous, but you do have those tools. There is no reason. I am um, always amazed when people are like, look at the bite marks, look at the claw marks. I'm like, why are you allowing your dog to do that to you? I don't get it. I don't understand why anybody would allow their dog to do stuff like that to them. There's so many ways, nice ways. I'm not saying correction. I'm not saying smack them. I'm not saying anything like that. Nice ways that teach your dog how to interact with you without hurting you. There should be no pain. Okay, so will your dog outgrow that is a complicated question. And this is how I think of it in my head. Dogs change drastically during their first few years, just like humans. A 10-week-old puppy does not have the same wants and needs as a 4-year-old adult. For example, my current puppy, who's 13 weeks old, Wicca, um, she's a mad chewer. Obviously, her teeth are coming in and she's really uncomfortable. My puppy before her spec never bit me, never really chewed, still as an adult doesn't really love to chew. But she's the hardest chewer I've ever seen as a puppy. She goes through those esophaguses in like a couple hours. Usually those last for a week with a puppy. So she's uncomfortable. She wants to chew. That doesn't mean she's allowed to chew on me. I'm always managing and working with that. But I have to accept that's her. She will outgrow that. Dogs are done teething by about 5 months old, and then they hit a second teething stage between 7 to 9 months. So I have to be prepared for those teething stages with management and behavior training and stuff like that, but she will outgrow those. So if I can control her behaviors when she's a puppy, by the time she's about 10 months old, that chewing, biting behavior will greatly diminish. And then she can, she can exist more comfortably, the poor dog. So, anything you allow to become a habit will probably stick around for the rest of the dog's life, like destroying their bedding, stuff like that. So she's a chewer right now. If I put a bunch of stuff in her crate that she'll rip apart, she is going to earn reinforcement for ripping stuff apart. My very first dog was an Akita and he destroyed every bed I ever gave him. I remember we bought one of those plastic igloos and bought this like $60 bed to go inside so he'd be comfortable. And within 10 minutes, he destroyed it. And he never had bedding the rest of his life because he'd eat it till he was like 10 years old. He'd eat it in his crate. From then on, my puppies don't get a lot of bedding until they're old enough to be in their crates with bedding and not feel the need to destroy them. They have other stuff. Usually I use towels, which so far they don't seem to chew. And then at a year, I start giving them bedding and none of them have ever eaten it. So yeah, you're always looking at walking a fine line between being too permissive and letting all sorts of bad habits be created. And on the other side of that coin is trying to control everything and driving both you and your dog crazy. I am definitely veered towards the crazy side of control. Um, but I get better with every dog. I learn. I now know the signs and of me getting too obsessive over the details. Usually that happens when things are out of control. When things aren't working, I start obsessing more over the details. And and I understand how control is only part of the answer. Um, so managed freedom is the other part of the answer. So giving them the opportunity to make the correct choices. And we're going to talk about that in a future Facebook Live. So when I become uber obsessive over managing everything, it's because I'm trying to create the perfect dog. I become stuck in obsessing over every behavior. That's not what I'm saying in this Facebook Live. I'm saying, let's look at the big picture. Let's look at big behaviors. Um, because obsessing over every behavior, which I have clients that I've seen do that, and they're like, well, I taught, and I get it. You do the work, you follow the rules, you hire a trainer, you do everything, and your dog doesn't listen, doesn't read the book. And then you're like, I obsess over more and more. Sometimes you got to give them that freedom. You got to figure it out. It's dog training is problem solving. It's not going head on to your dog and teaching him or forcing him to do stuff. It's figuring out how to best get your dog to do what you want. For example, for the first 4 weeks, Wicca had not a lot of food drive, which I mentioned in my puppy group, how to raise a puppy in a pandemic. And now she's got food drive. So, but in that time, I managed to create some keep away behaviors. So every day now, I go where it's safe in my front yard. I have a huge front yard. There's no fence, but there's nowhere to go. Um, and I let her just be a dog. I don't do anything. She'll pick up a stick and she'll run around and she'll chew it. And she tends to sit really far from me, which I know is the keep away behavior. And she's watching me out of the side of her eye. So she'll tend to sit about 50 feet away. Um, but every day that I do this, now she comes closer. So today she grabbed my shoe. I'd changed shoes to go outside and I'd left them at the front door and she went, picked it up and ran away. And she was like 50 feet away. And I just sat on the front deck and was like, okay, whatever. She's little enough, those tiny puppy teeth. She's not going to chew my shoe in a second. It's once they get big teeth that the chewing becomes an issue. So I let her sit there. And after like 5, 10 minutes, she looked at me and I'm like, hey, how are you? How's it going? She ran right over to me. I rewarded her and then I let her go back. So it's building that trust that I'm not going to take everything away from you. The more you take stuff away, the more they don't trust you. The more they don't trust you, the more you take stuff away because the more they grab stuff. It's that vicious circle you never want to get to. So this is the thing. This is how I think of it in my brain. Um, there's no such thing as perfect. Not for you, not for your puppy. You are going to screw this up. Somewhere, somehow, it's going to happen. It's like scratching your new car. Sooner or later, you'll get that first scratch. And then it's this sense of relief of, okay, I've had the first scratch. I can stop obsessing, or at least me. I may be a little crazy, but whatever. Um, so if you accept you're going to screw it up, accept it, embrace it, and then take a deep breath, hug your puppy, remember why you got this puppy, remember how sweet and cute and adorable this puppy is, and then smile and move on. Okay, so with puppies, especially with puppies, all behaviors are new, so nothing is a habit. This is an amazing opportunity to create behavior without anything getting in the way. Any behavior that isn't reinforced will eventually fade. For example, your puppy or dog jumps on you. Puppies jump because people are lazy and we don't want to bend all the way down to pet the dog. But yet, jumping is one of the biggest things people call me about. Um, Very quickly, the puppy runs over and jumps on you for attention. I'm seeing it with Wicca. As the dog grows up, people start going, well, you get the some people reward the jumping, and then you get the other people who are like, no, no, get off, don't jump. But all that no jump, pushing them down is giving them attention, which is really what they want. So you end up rewarding the jumping, which is exactly what you're trying to get rid of. Um, with Wicca, in my family, me, my husband, my son, We've been really good about not reinforcing the jumping. We make a very big point of when she's got 4 feet on the ground, we're petting her, and if she jumps up, we just stand up and walk away. Um, so um, that's how we control it. And she's really good with us. But now comes new people who come to see her. We meet on the street, and I'm seeing them reward the jumping, and I'm seeing her jumping behavior go up. So now I've spoken to the people and said, hey, don't reward her when she's jumping. And I coach them. She's jumping on you. Could you stop touching her? And then she goes and sits, and then they pet her, and it all works. If I have someone that I don't know, most of these people are people I know, and I can ask them to do that. But if I'm out in public, I may go and stand on the leash so she can't jump. It's definitely a little more challenging now with COVID because that means I get into the person's space. But then I just stand on the leash near me, and the person can choose to come in if they choose to, or keep personal space and not. But I'm not breaking my dog's jumping because of this. So yeah, so keeping your foot on the leash when meeting people in public is definitely an easy way to prevent jumping. Um, most of my dogs are really good on leash because I can manage it so well. Off leash, like if you start going off leash parks and stuff like that, it becomes much more challenging. Um, I don't hate jumping. I don't care about jumping that much. I do care about jumping when they're on leash because that means I'm somewhere where they have to be a little more controlled. If they're jumping on my friends who are encouraging it, meh. So yeah, that's how I go with my dogs. So if they learn on leash you cannot jump, I'm okay with that. And it means they're not huge jumpers off leash either, but you have to decide what your criteria is and then manage it so it works for your criteria. Um, Okay, so the other side of the coin is being too permissive. What that means is thinking you'll fix it later on, or maybe, just a cute little puppy who worries about that. But maybe the other side is people don't believe they can change behavior with a puppy. They don't have the tools to understand how to change behavior with a puppy. So let's talk about door manners. Door manners is something I get called a lot about. People are like, my dog's a complete idiot at the door. He loses his mind, and there's a lot of yelling. I remember working one client, and in the front entry, the dog couldn't do a simple sit. As soon as you took him out of the front entry in, let's say, the kitchen, the dog could sit no problem. So that shows you what level of stress and anxiety and excitement was all involved with the front entry. And this happens because of door manners. So think about what would be the ideal dog for you at the front door. My ideal dog would be I'd open the door, people would walk in, my dog would come over, kind of sniff, say hello, and then walk away and go do their own thing. That would be my ideal dog. Um, you want friendly but not too friendly. You want a dog you don't want a dog cowering in the corner. You want him to greet your company but stay calm. So let's take a peek into what's happening with your new puppy. People come over, they squeal, oh my God, your puppy's adorable. The dog comes flying at them, jumps up, screams, jumps up, gets picked up. So that's what's happening. And this is what you're creating. And this is why eventually door manners go horrible. Um, you're creating all these bad habits, such as jumping and losing their minds. And then you spend the rest of the time going, no, 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 no. But then you're like, oh, but it's my brother and he loves the dog. Oh, okay, you can do it. Or worse, people hold their dogs back, let the people come in, close the door, and then let them go. You are literally revving the dog up. That's how I get my dog excited. I hold them back when I want them to run fast as something for agility. I hold them back and I'm all excited and let them go. That's what people are doing at the front door. So, things you can do to manage. You could have your foot on the dog's leash. So now you can wait till your dog settles down. Um, I'm not saying anything. To do the foot on the leash, you kind of need two people or people that can walk in on their own. You need one person dealing with the company and you need one person standing on the dog's leash. So at first, the leash is very short so the dog can stand or sit, but can't jump. And the dog's going to be sit there like a little basketball trying to jump, trying to jump, trying to jump. And eventually they're like, okay, I'm done. And they'll sit there. Or usually they don't stand, they sit. Once they're calm, you can now say, go see, and give them permission to go visit your company. The only problem here is if your company's really good about not reinforcing the jumping, you'll be fine. If your company is going to ignore you, and we all have those companies, then you need to go in with them and stand on their leash when they get to your company so that you can manage the jumping once they get there. Or again, you can have the people approach you. I usually put my dogs in a crate or an X pen, and I let my company come in, settle down, give everybody drinks, whatever. And then, depending on the stage and the temperament of the puppy, is what I do for the next step. With a more timid puppy who I'm trying to build confidence, I don't want to manage too much. I want to let them have some freedom. I am very careful to only do this with company who will follow my rules. With a timid puppy, you want to encourage the dog to investigate, but the people have to ignore your puppy, because if he's investigating and all of a sudden somebody's like, hello, and pets them, that might scare your puppy. So with a very timid puppy, I then just give them freedom and let them go. I wouldn't leave them loose at the beginning, because that's when you start getting somebody walks through the door and they back up, the dog backs up barking or charges them barking. So that's why they'd still be in the X pen at the beginning. So with a confident or boisterous puppy, I once I come out of the X pen, I'll have the dog on leash, and then I will calmly approach each person and let them pet my dog. I will I have meanwhile been working on approaching people and sitting, which if you check out my How to Raise a Puppy in a Pandemic group, I haven't posted that video, but I will be posting that video in the next week. Um, and then again, depending on the stage of the puppy is at training and how they can manage this environment, I will tether them to something and I will put them on their pillow, lead them over to their pillow, and give them something high value to chew on, such as a frozen Kong. So now I've created a dog who my company has come in, they stayed calm. Now we've gone and greeted the company, and now you learn to lie down quietly and chew your toy while the company's there. You can do this with a 9-week-old puppy, and right from the beginning, create this is what I want you to do when there's company. Not, you are now going to fly from company to company to company, just winding yourself up, and now I can't catch you, and now you don't come when called. So you see how you took a situation and created a nice training opportunity instead of creating mayhem. That now picture it, and as a puppy, you're like, meh. But as a 6-month-old dog, let's say you're 80-pound Labrador, not so good. So I wanted to talk about the difference when working a puppy, a new adult dog, or an old owned adult dog that you've had for a while. A puppy is a clean slate. Breed, hardwiring, and environment will create the puppy's questions. What happens when I do this? And you have a wonderful opportunity to give answers with no previous information blocking the learning process. That is what's amazing about a clean slate. A new adult dog may have habits that are totally off kilter. So when you rescue a dog or adopt an adult dog, the first 4 weeks are called the honeymoon period, and they're off kilter. It's like starting a new job. You're checking out the lay of the land, figuring out the rules, figure out who you have to listen to, figure out who you have to ignore. So this is a prime opportunity to create new behaviors for a dog. You want to right away start management and training. I treat a new adult dog, I treat exactly like a puppy. I just find the behaviors set in much quicker because they don't have all the puppy silliness. Um, but yeah, this is a prime opportunity. I wouldn't wait for 4 weeks, let my dog get settled in, and then try to change behavior. And you will find as 3 to 4 weeks hits and the dog settles in, spurts of old behavior will start kicking in. Like he hasn't jumped, but all of a sudden he starts to jump. But you've had that 3 weeks of going, yeah, we don't jump in this house. And then when he tries it, you're going to go, yeah, we still don't jump in this house. So it's much easier to create new behaviors. Sometimes people can do this too when you move to a new house, because again, new place, new everything, they got to settle in, and you can get in a bunch of new behaviors. So for an adult dog that you've owned for a while, you can still totally change behavior, but there is a reinforcement history on whatever it is you're trying to change. And that's going to impede your progress. So the example I chose to talk about is running out the front door. Dogs who are waiting, and the minute you open the front door, they're gone. Um, Before I talk about the management, some dogs you can let run out the front door and then just call them in, and actually makes getting people in your house easier. So instead of everybody being stuck in the front entry, you open the door, the dog runs out, and then you come, and then you let the people come in, and then the dog comes in. But for that to work, you need to work really hard on your recall. Um, so management of the front door. So management um, would be not giving the dog access to the front door by using a baby gate, a crate, or a tether anytime you're going to open the front door. And of course, this will all depend on your house, right? Is the front door the door you use all the time, or is the front door you use once a week when you accompany? Um, Training would be teaching your dog to sit when the front door opens. So my dogs have, I put my hand on the doorknob, my dog sits. When they're young, like Wicca is at this age, I reward that. I open the door, I reward that, and then they get released out. So me opening the door is not the cue to run out the door. But this is the thing with an adult experienced dog. If you don't use management, your dog will default back to old behaviors. What happens is your dog will learn when you're in training mode and he'd be perfect. But then as soon as you go back to real life mode, like company coming in or the pizza guy showing up, he will go back to bad old behaviors and run out the door. So then you get the dog who's amazing when you train and is exactly as bad as he was when you're not training, which I see a lot. People are like, but I trained this and he's really good. He knows what he's supposed to do, but he's not doing it. Meh, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. He knows what he's supposed to do um, when you're paying attention. It's like, but then when people come in, he's excited and he runs out. It's not purposeful, it just is. So you need to be really good about managing in real life till you're ready to train in real life. Another example, one more, where people allow their puppies to create behaviors that they then spend the rest of their lives fixing is pulling on leash. People put a puppy on a leash and it's like a divining rod. They follow the puppy around. The puppy wants to see people. The puppy wants to see another dog. They're running around behind it. And this is all good till the dog gets a little older and they decide, oh, but I don't want to go visit that person or I don't want to go visit that dog. And they try to stop the dog. But the dog's like, no, no, I really want to go. And eventually they're like, fine, let's just go. It's easier. And then the dog gets bigger and now the dog's dangerous. I had a neighbor whose dog pulled her across the street to see another dog and they both almost got hit by a car because she couldn't stop them. I start managing my puppy's leash right from the beginning. The first exercise I teach is pressure on the leash comes into me. So I put on a leash, I put a little pressure. When they move towards me, I reward them. So right away, I'm teaching them pressure means come towards me, not pull away. Um, as soon as they start to pull, I put them on a head halter. This prevents them from getting the habit of pulling. Very few puppies, none that I've ever owned, have enough brain power, maturity, self-control to not pull on leash when they're in an environment they're really comfortable. Yeah, if you have a underconfident, nervous puppy, he may never pull on leash because he doesn't want to go anywhere. But a confident, boisterous puppy who's curious will pull on leash. The head halter allows me to go places, do stuff, expose them to the world without ever letting them get into the habit of pulling on leash. When they are old enough, when they become mentally mature and have a lot of self-control work behind them, usually about a year and a half, 2, I start taking the gentle leader off. And then they either pull on leash and it goes back on, or they don't pull on leash, which eventually happens. And I start using just a buckle collar. So my adult dogs can walk nicely in environments which are exciting with just a buckle collar because I started them right the day they started pulling. Now, if you have an adult dog who pulls like a truck, the habit of pulling is very strong. My very first dog was an Akita. He was a 90-pound dog and he pulled like a truck. Um, I chose to use when he was about, I think a year and a half too. I'd fought it, like tried to work on him and nothing was working. I know now that I didn't really change anything. I just corrected him for pulling, which he didn't understand, and he went back to pulling. So I put a prong collar on him and it did get better. And then as an adult, probably 4 or 5 years old, he really didn't pull very much. But I realized it's because there was nothing he wanted. When he finally saw something he wanted, he would pull. But because he was an Akita and they're pretty laid back, he was like, meh. 90% of the time he was fine. But when he did pull, he stuck his body into it because not only do they pull on leash, they learn how to use their body to actually move you. They learn how to use their weight. So, yeah, he never lost the habit of pulling. He just lost the interest to pull. Okay, so that is some examples for you to think about when it comes to will my puppy outgrow that? So before I go, I saw a bunch of questions and let me go through them. Candy, flanking. um, Flanking. Um, I would do a lot of restrained recalls with Salem, preventing her from um, curving, doing that border collie curve. I would also a lot of restrained recalls to a toy. So teaching her to run in a straight line. I'd be doing a lot of games where she runs in a straight line. If she's more likely when you're running to veer out to the side, then I would give her a target like a toy or a jump or whatever. So she learns to do that straight line and not that flanking. Um, Bonnie, you asked, thank you for talking on the keep away. Um, yes, check out my puppy group. I will keep posting on the keep away. I did the video this morning of the shoe. I also did a video last week where I put Wicca in an X pen and I put her in there with a bone because I was going to do some gardening. But when I went near the pen, she picked up the bone and tried to get out. And it was fascinating because that's keep away, right? But then because she was in an X pen, the behavior was managed and she eventually was like, screw it, and just stood there. And then I threw a bunch of cookies in and walked away. And then the whole time I was gardening, I regularly got up, walked towards the pen, and threw a bunch of cookies in, not looking at the bone, not talking about the bone, just went, me approaching you, good things happen. Um, by the end of it, she wouldn't even get up. She'd just be like, "Hey, you're coming to give me cookies." She'd just sit there, and as soon as I threw the cookies in, she'd get up to find the cookies. The biggest thing about keep away is you have to stop obsessing over trying to get the thing, and you have to start working on training the dog to let you come near them or to come when called. And I'll keep posting. Maybe I'll do a Facebook Live on Keep Away, but I'll keep posting videos of are the different things I've done with Wicca to help on that. Okay, so with the grandchildren, exactly how I said it here. So I would so when everybody comes over, have your puppy in a crate or however old your dog is, puppy, have your puppy in a crate. Make sure before they get there, your puppy has been well exercised and has something to do like a raw bone to keep them busy in the crate. Um, just so they're not screaming the whole time. So once everybody's in and settled, the kids have settled because little kids are high, so you want them settled. Then you can have them all line up. I don't know how many there are, and you bring the puppy out, exercise the puppy, have them go to the bathroom, maybe give them a little 2-minute run, then bring them in outside, whatever, and you stand on the leash. And then you line up the kids in front of the dog about 10 feet away. And then you play if the dog is calm, the child steps forward. If the dog starts to jump, the dog steps back. And you continue to do that till the child can approach the dog with the dog sitting. Now, depending on what your puppy is doing, um, I wouldn't let your child um, I wouldn't let your child touch the dog. I wouldn't let your grandchild touch the dog because the minute your grandchild touches the dog, your dog's going to bite them. So what I do, and again, I'm not sure how old, I'm thinking like 4 years old for the children. So what I do is I put a cookie in the puppy's face and I stick the bum out so the kid can touch the dog's bum. Because Little kids, when they touch a dog, are like, because they're scared to get bit or they don't want to get licked or whatever. And then puppies will bite that hand because it's moving, right? So when you reward the face, the dog's getting touched by the child in a good way, and the child gets to touch the dog in a way that's not dangerous. That the other thing I do is I have the puppy in an X pen with their toys, and the kids can play around the X pen, and everybody can play together without having to interact. So that's some ideas. Um, my dog is a year and a half, still pulls on leash. I feel like I've tried everything with the gentle leader, but a good idea at this point. Yes. Um, Cheryl, the other thing I'd suggest is how well can your dog stand still? So if you look at my puppy group, I've been doing videos with Wicca where I go places and I stand. I do not teach my dog. I do not teach my dog to go out in public by walking. I teach it by standing because I think if you try to teach calm while walking, too much is going on. It's too hard on the dog. So I go and I stand places. Once my dog can be calm standing, then I might try walking. So you definitely need something to prevent the pulling. The gentle leader is a great start. And then you have to think about, is this the only way your dog's getting exercised? Then that's a challenge because again, depends what kind of dog it is, but your dog may need other ways to exercise. So PM me about this and I'll give you some more suggestions. Oh yeah, yeah. No. So Candy with Salem. Yeah, you got to do this with something the dog cannot ingest. Dogs, the dangerous part about keep away is dogs who it's the ultimate win. They just swallow whatever they have. So I had a client whose Doberman swallowed a glove. So you really want to teach the dog to spit it out, not to swallow. So you have to practice with stuff they cannot swallow, not socks. And if it has to be a sock, maybe put a sock like around a stick, like a big stick, so that when she goes to pick it up to swallow it, she cannot physically swallow it. And then eventually she drops it to eat the cookies. And I would come up and do that till she's eventually like, I don't care about the sock. I care about your cookies. So that might be an idea I'd try and then try with other stuff. I wouldn't work on a sock for a long time. No problem, Cheryl. Um, Frankie, 8-month-old golden who eats everything sticks grass. So, funny enough, BJ, I was just speaking to someone with a golden just about this age about this exact problem. The more you obsess over what they eat, the more they eat, because you're reinforcing it. Um, and I had the same problem with Wicca. She wouldn't go to the bathroom, so I was constantly taking stuff out of her mouth because I needed her to go to the bathroom. And once she picked something up, she wouldn't go to the bathroom. And the more I took stuff out of her mouth, the worse it got. Um, you're reinforcing it by giving it attention. So options, quick and dirty options. Obviously, with any of these problems, if you want more in depth, PM me and we can talk about other stuff and options. One option is when you put them out in your backyard, muzzle them. Done. Muzzle him. He can't pick stuff up, and then walk around doing name game, going up and rewarding them, stuff like that. Build value for you. The muzzle allows you to build value for being with you in your backyard while he can't be eating inappropriate stuff. The ball doesn't have enough value um, for you're reinforcing the stuff he's picking up by paying attention. So until you stop that, you're not going to be able to change this behavior. Okay, guys, I've answered all your questions. Again, if you're looking at this on the recording, please feel free to ask some more questions and I would be more than happy to answer them. Have a wonderful weekend and we will see you next week, Friday at 10 a.m. for our next Facebook Live. Oh, Candy? Yeah, no, of course, nobody does the sock on purpose. Oh. Yeah, and Candy, I get that you didn't do the sock on purpose, but I would set her up with stuff that's not, she can't, stuff she cannot swallow so that she gets the habit of when I have something in my mouth and you approach me, good things happen instead of I swallow it and then good things happen. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.